The trick is thinking outside the box. Keep your readers on their toes. A person lives, a person dies. This particular poison. There's something in writing called a trope. The short definition is it's a basic theme. Movies, TV shows, a lot of novels, they all follow a certain trope, meaning a storyline. It's the same one. Boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl, boy marries girl, boy lives happily ever after. It's the same story. It's a very neat, convenient little box, bold lines for you to color inside of, and can very easily get boring as hell. The trick is thinking outside the box. That's why a lot of the remakes of popular TV shows and movies go in a different direction than the original. Like if you've watched Wednesday Addams, any of those storylines really sharply diverge from the original Addams Family, which was the trope of the sitcoms of the day, which were set in suburbia, a suburban family with all their little domestic issues. It and the Munsters were kind of a gothic version of Leave It to Beaver or Ozzie and Harriet or Father's Knows Best, just like Dark Shadows was a gothic version of Guiding Light, All My Children as the World Turns. And that was an interesting take and wrapping on the box. But what you want to do is think outside the box. Go in a new direction, like Wednesday Addams. A whodunit. Crime is pretty much a standard trope. Somebody gets killed, somebody steals something, somebody gets robbed, somebody gets injured, somebody gets blackmailed. Every society has illegal activities, and a crime novel, a mystery novel, is going to be dealing with one of those things. But how do you want to do it? Back in the 40s and right up through the 60s, there was, I can't remember the name of this particular poison, but it was the one that they used in South America. You know, the natives used in South America. They put on the darts that they will shoot at an enemy. And so everybody was using it, you know, after Agatha Christie talked about it. And to the point that even Agatha Christie in one of her novels mentioned that it was cliche. And, you know, that is the case. So think outside the box. Come up with something different. It'll be the standard thing. I mean, a person lives, a person dies. That's kind of how a murder mystery is based. Those are the basic ingredients for it. How are they going to do it? Who's going to do it? I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I was talking with a friend of mine who's in law enforcement, and he says, I was driving by this place where we had this really bizarre death call, and I instantly thought of you. But he said, we were called, it looked like it was a suicide, guy was slumped over the table, back of his head was all mashed in. At first glance, it had the earmarks of a gunshot, but there was no gun. Was it a murder? There was no scorch marks. There was no shell casing. There was no bullet hole because it looked like an exit wound. And then in recreating the crime scene, after they were doing toxicology and everything, and, you know, they finally put all the evidence together, they realized that it was an accidental death. The guy was drunk. He stood up. He slipped, fell backwards, hit his head on something behind him, smashed his skull. He collapsed to the chair and dropped on the table. Accidental death, but everything looked like a homicide. He said, and we were acting and treating it like a homicide. So that's kind of thinking outside the box. You give them, make them think it's one thing, and then you switch, and it's actually something else. Keep your readers on their toes. Keep yourself on your toes. You know, take a look at the common and see how you can make it uncommon, or see what uncommon things actually go into influencing it and elaborate on one of those. There's all kinds of ways to just not get in the same trap. The old saying goes that imitation is the highest form of flattery. It is to a point. After that, it just becomes a lack of imagination. So be creative. Who knows what you might uncover? You might set the next trope.